Can I Not Marry audio web novel chapter 37. A dead fish is stimulated into a big shark. Baby, don't rush to leave our. Hearing this voice, Du Lacey lifted her head and saw a familiar peach blossom eyes. Seo Yin. Upon seeing this person, the fire within Du Lacey's heart rose. If it wasn't for this guy, she wouldn't have suffered a fracture so badly. He also caused her to have a plaster cast for such a long period of time, also causing the president misunderstand. Once thinking of this, the grievances Du Lacey held on to released, she firmly and ruthlessly glared at Seo Yin while saying, F***ck off. So it turns out, an angry small white rabbit will also bite. Seo Yin didn't expect this. The smile on his face instantly stiffened, but soon he recovered his usual frivolous character. Baby, why are you so fierce? He said as he made his way towards her side. Du Lacey ignored him. She turned around and headed out. The two of them were like an eagle trying to catch a chicken, one trying to escape while the other one block. After a while the other person still refused to budge. Du Lacey finally became irritated. If you continue to block my way, I start yelling you're indecently assaulting me. Baby, today your fire is very big. Oh great. Although saying so, Seo Yin knew they were in a public place. If she make a scene it'll be hard for him to clear up the misunderstanding, so he obediently moved to the side. Even though Seo Yin moved to the side, it didn't mean he had the intentions of letting Du Lacey leave. He leisurely walked in front of her until they reached outside of the company's building. Du Lacey turned around and gritted her teeth as she spoke. I warned you not to follow me. How am I following you? It just happens we're traveling towards the same path. Seo Yin swung his hands and had a vague look in his eyes. Baby, if you put it this way, are you trying to imply I'll do something? He said as he stretched out his hands to hold her chin. Piss off. I'm not in the mood to dawdle with you. Du Lacey did not hesitate to push off his hand. Right now she is extremely annoyed with this wildly arrogant man who enjoyed playing with others' feelings. Don't leave. Seo Yin stretched his arm and seized her. Sweetheart, if your mood is not good, why don't I accompany you to drink and divert some of your boredom? If you want to drink, drink yourself. Du Lacey unceremoniously glared at him, passing by the arm in front of her. She continued to walk. It seems today this girl have consumed explosives. Seo Yin was briefly slow-witted and blank. On the contrary, this increased his interest and he nimbly moved to the side, and to block her footpath once again. Sweetheart, you really not going to give me any face? He said, appearing as if he has been hurt by her actions. At this time, the anger in Du Lacey's heart has reached the outbreak of the critical point. An overcast appeared on her face as she coldly said, I'll count to 3. If you're still blocking my way, don't blame me for being impolite. 1, 2. Hey, what are you doing? Suddenly a voice came, making the two of them to turn their heads towards the direction it came from. Du Lacey was surprised. Isn't this beauty the one who came to the president office? Seo Yin, are you flirting with the woman? The beauty disdainfully glanced at Seo Yin. What? Where have I? I just want to ask Mrs. Lian to have a drink, Seo Yin replied with an innocent expression. Mrs. Lian. The beauty was slightly taken back, her vision completely focused on Du Lacey, who was in an absence of state. Yes, she's President Lian's wife, Alice. Seo Yin said, also focusing this vision on Du Lacey. His expression appeared grieved and wronged. However, Mrs. Lian refused to oblige. It's merely having a few drinks together to develop some sentiment. Chia, you say, isn't that right? Don't use your playboy tricks in front of me. The beauty angrily stared Seo Yin, then very naturally with poise she stretched out a hand towards Du Lacey while saying, Hello, my name is Seo Chia, I'm this bastard's younger sister. It turns out that she is Seo Yin's younger sister. Du Lacey hesitated for a moment, before reaching out her hand to grip hers. Hello. Seo Yin said, you are Lian Jun's wife. The beauty said naturally as she bluntly looked at Du Lacey. To tell the truth, she has seen many mistresses before, but she has never seen someone with the identity as a mistress to have such a powerful aura. For just a slight moment, Du Lacey also doubted whether she has got the wrong person. She had no other choice but to awkwardly nod her head. For now, she should still be the president's wife, right? Seeing Du Lacey nod in reply, Seo Chia was also not polite as she said, Since this is our first time meeting, I would invite you to have a glass of wine, consider as my gift for our first encounter. Du Lacey stared at the beauty before her. Her mind suddenly felt like she encountered the feast at the Hong Gate. Just when she wanted to reject the offer, the image of Lian Jun's back figure standing in his office floated in her mind. She pleasantly cried. Raising her head she stared straight at Seo Chia. Okay, I won't be polite then. Seo Yin drove the three of them to a city's most famous entertainment district, reserving a compartment. During this time Lian Jun called Du Lacey numerous times, however she hesitated to answer. Staring at Seo Chia sitting opposite, she was determined to ignore his calls. You have made me wait more than 2 hours. Only a ghost would answer your phone calls. When the small white rabbit initiate ruthless, she'll also disown all of her relatives and friends. After arriving at the compartment, Seo Chia ordered some red wine and also 2 bottles of white wine. Du Lacey deliberately sweep a glance at price list. Upon seeing the long string of numbers, she was furious. Thinking how she shamelessly sold condoms at the shopping mall, she still wouldn't be able to pay for half a bottle of these wines. However, this mistress unexpectedly in front of her, the legal wife, have extravagantly spent her husband's money. This is simply taking it too far. Du Lacey was furious. She decided to drink back all the wine's money. A few moments later, the wine came. Red or white? Seo Chia asked. White. Du Lacey very boldly replied only because it was obvious white wine was more expensive than red on the list. Seo Chia was temporarily stunned, then she used a tone which revealed her slight appreciation. There are very few women who would drink white. That's because they have not met such a high-profile mistress like you. Du Lacey silently said in her heart. That's because Alice is unusually different. Seo Yin suddenly interrupted, then he gracefully poured himself a cup of wine and ambiguously said, "Come on, baby. I'll accompany you to drink white." Hearing this tone of voice, she felt a storm was brewing over the rivers and seas in her stomach. Ignore him. He is insane. Seo Chia angrily stared at Seo Yin, then she turned towards Du Lacey and said, "I propose a toast to you. This is our first time meeting. Please convenience me in the future." A revolt is rising. A mistress openly and righteously asked the legal wife to take good care of them in the future. When did the world come to this? Du Lacey stared at Seo Chia for the longest time as if she was staring at an alien. Finally she found it unbearable. When did you and Lian Jun become acquaintance with each other? Seo Chia was temporarily stunned, thinking for a long time before she said, "If consider our first time meeting, then it should be during elementary school, is not it?" She asked Seo Yin, who was besides her. Somehow Seo Yin's suddenly smile vanished while absent-mindedly hum a reply. So it turns out she isn't a mistress, they were childhood sweethearts. The fighting spirit Du Lacey took much effort to summon up completely disappeared. At that time, Dad often took us out to meet him. Young child are ignorant. After a few times of meeting we became familiar with each other. Now thinking back I find it so laughable. Seo Chia spoke as if she was partly talking to herself as she smiled and raised the glass to slip the wine. Not only were they childhood sweethearts, they were betrothed before birth. That moment, Du Lacey thoroughly lose her will to fight. In the beginning she thought the other person was the mistress. Somehow she had become the destructor, breaking up the childhood sweethearts instead, thus causing them to sneakily each other. Du Lacey, how could you be so stupid? How could a handsome and rich man like the president not having any female confidants before marriage? Suddenly, Du Lacey felt very depressed. She raised her glass, hastily took 2 big mouthfuls. In fact, I did not expect him to get married. When we were together, he always said he would not get married, Seo Chia said. When they were together time. Indeed, as expected, they would have a period of the past hour. So, Du Lacey's mood became even worse, and she took another 2 big mouthful of the wine. Before she knew it, the entire glass of wine had entered her belly. Your alcohol tolerance is good. Seo Chia sweep her eyes at Du Lacey's empty glasses. I admire a woman who can drink, especially when you're born in my sort of environment. A lady's identity, even when one wants to do something they cannot hastily just do it, really meaningless. Come, let's make a toast to you. If you put it this way, isn't this indicating your intentions of becoming the legal wife? Du Lacey felt suffocated and sulked the white wine. So like this, the 2 of them drank 1 glass after. Soon Seo Chia could barely keep up. Excuse me, I want to go to the bathroom, she said, stumbled her way out. Once Seo Chia left, Seo Yin saw his chance arrived. Darling, she's not accompanying you to drink, I'll accompany. At this time Du Lacey, who has been drinking a few glasses, stretched over her glass and sulked another. Seeing that a cup of wine had been drunk, Seo Yin's mouth inadvertently curved. In fact, his original intentions was to get drunk Du Lacey. When the dead fish turns into a salted fish, naturally she wouldn't be able to jump out of his palm. However, he did not expect Du Lacey's drinking habits to be different to others. The more she drank, the more sober she became. As she continued to drink, the dead fish have unwittingly evolved into a big sharks, and if you were unlucky she would mercilessly bite down. This unlucky egg was naturally Seo Yin himself. Seeing Du Lacey drink so much, and not speak much, Seo Yin assumed she was drunk, so he deliberately moved closer to her side and softly said, "Baby, what is causing you to be unhappy today? Why don't you tell me about it?" After he said this, he held out his hands to hook her shoulders. Du Lacey was still the middle drinking her wine, so she didn't have the time to take notice of him. In an instant, Seo Yin stood up. Speaking of which, student Seo Yin is also very unlucky, his deskmate from elementary school to the current white-collar elite. Which woman have ever escaped his clutches? But it just so happens he met the erratic Du Lacey, trying to seduce her. Until now, she still didn't give him a glance. Could this is called a playboy's love is too heavy to bear? His felt quite angry and simply said, "You're so angry, isn't because you're eating my sister and Lian Jun's vinegar." In fact, he could detect this early on, seeing Du Lacey battered out of her senses when she exited the elevator to the strange expression she had when she saw Seo Chia. She didn't even hesitate to accept Seo Xia's invitation. It is clear that she must have caught Seo Chia looking for Lian Jun and misunderstood. Sure enough, listening to what Seo Yin said, Du Lacey's hand that held the glass of wine froze. Jealous. Is she currently eating the president's vinegar? How could it be possible? Clearly they would be divorcing sooner or later. From the moment they got married she already foreseen this. But why does her heart feel reluctant to part? The absence of Du Lacey was what Seo Yin wanted, and he have drunk a lot of red wine himself, so he rushed up to her. His goals were to kiss those delicious red lips. A moment later, his lips were about to land on hers. Du Lacey regained her conscience and intently stared at the face that was coming towards her eyes. Under the influence of alcohol, the face transforms into Lian Jun's appearance. The first idea to flash through her brain was, he's sitting on the fence yet he still dare to kiss her. Du Lacey stood up and violently kicked toward Lian Jun's crotch. This kick was a surprise for Seo Yin. He clutched down and let out an "ah" sound. While holding onto his crotch he fell onto the sofa, groaned in pain. Who asked you to play with a woman's feelings? Die. Du Lacey was swearing as she ran towards the doorway. She used her hands to push the door open and rushed out. Bang. It appears she have hit the wall. Rubbing her forehead as she looked up, she was embarrassed. Why is it? There's another president here. Lian Jun's calm expression became increasingly gloomy upon seeing her. Comparing this president's aura to the one before, it is simply like heaven and earth. Du Lacey was a little guilty, however the alcohol constantly stimulate her brain and epinephrine. Go away, she coldly said. However the person standing in front of her had no intentions of moving. He only used his eagle-sharp eyes to stare at her. Did you drink? He asked emotionlessly. And if I did, what can you do about it? Why do you want to drink? Why? Du Lacey frowned, recalling what Seo Yin said. Thus she replied, because I'm jealous. So straightforward, she was indeed very drunk. The calm face instantly softened, his aura remains unabated as his eyes soften. You are drunk, go sleep for a while on the side, in a moment I will bring you back. Lian Jun said, pointing to the sofa on the side. I won't go back with you, she said, slapping away his hands. I told you, in this lifetime I will not go back with you. I'm going to divorce you. Divorce, divorce, divorce. When her voice was heard everything seemed to have quieted down. A moment later, the mouth that spoke these words was severely blocked. He kissed her. This kiss was full of aggressive, potent and strength. The kisser seems to want a certain ownership. Such an overbearing kiss, even their breathing fused together, causing one to lose their defense, but also unable to resist. Just this one kiss. Du Lacey. Sorry. Have already fainted.